If you cut contact with him, or you stop talking to him, you stop texting him, you go no contact, or let's say you just give him some space, will he miss you? And if he doesn't, what can you do about it? Or if you're not in a situation where he would miss you, what can you do about it? Hello, my name's Matthew Coast, and today we're going to be talking about whether he'll miss you or not if you cut contact with him. And I'll share a technique for making a man more attracted to you while doing less work. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I'll also share a text message that you can send to him that has a 98% response rate. So most women that send this to him, the overwhelming majority, get a response back, even a lot of times when the guy doesn't even like her. So he might not like you, and you can send him this text and he'll still respond back to you, almost guaranteed, almost guaranteed. And so let's get started here. Will he miss you? So the real question about whether he'll miss you if you cut contact or not is, how much does he like you? And so the more that he likes you, the more likely he is to miss you no matter what, no matter how much time you spent together, no matter what you've done together, no matter how much invested he is. If he likes you, if he really, really is attracted to you, if he really likes you, then he'll miss you. And the less that he likes you, the less likely he is to miss you, no matter what you've done together, no matter how much you've hung out with each other. If he doesn't have a high level of interest, then he probably won't miss you, right? If his interest level is really, really low. And so what can you do about it? Really, the first question that you should ask yourself is, should you do something about it? So hear me out on this one. So how low is his level of attraction and interest in you? And you can really tell a man's, I've got videos about this, but you can really tell a man's interest level more than anything else by how much he's investing in you, how much he's pursuing you, how much he's calling you, how much he's trying to hang out with you, how much he's willing to cancel plans to hang out with you, how much he's willing to go out of his way in order to be with you. And so the higher his interest level is, the more likely he is to miss you. And the lower it is, the less likely is, right? And so if his attraction level is really, really low and his investment level is really, really low, then cutting off contact with him isn't going to matter, because he's probably going to disappear anyway, right? And if it's really that low, there might not be anything that you can really do about it anyway, because there has to be a certain level. Like, there's a lot that we talk about in the dating advice community about kind of making a man miss you or making a man fall in love with you. But if a guy has absolutely no feelings for you, it's pretty much a lost cause. He has to have some kind of emotional connection and investment and interest in you in order to build it and grow it. If there's nothing there, you can't build and grow it, right? It's like trying to start a fire when there's no wood, right? You can't start a fire if there's nothing there to start with. There has to be something there initially if you want to build and grow that fire. And so the question is, what's his level of attraction and how invested is he in your situation? If his interest level is too low and his investment is too low, then you're really just wasting your time. But if his interest level is low, but it once was high and his investment is high, then there may still be something that you can do about it, right? And if you're in the initial kind of dating phases, because I'm not sure where you are specifically, but tell us in the chat right now where you are specifically as far as like dating the guy, if it's new, or whether you're trying to get an ex back, or what your situation is. Just let us know and we can talk about it some more. So if his interest level is medium or above, there's almost certainly something that you can do about it. And so What do you do? By the way, if you're here with us right now, say hi in the chat and tell us where in the world you're watching this from. It's so cool to see all these women from all over the world watching these live streams. So what can you do about it? How can you build his attraction and desire so that if you did cut things off, or if you went away, or you weren't texting him, he actually misses you and he wants to be around you and he thinks about you and he's like, I want to be back together with her. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So let's talk about what you can do. And I'm going to share a technique today. It's called connection cycling. And this technique is really, really awesome. Think about this. How cool would it be if you could actually control how much love, attraction, and desire that your man has for you? Wouldn't that be valuable to you? I think it would. So let's talk about connection cycling. There's 4 different parts to it. There's 4 parts to connection cycling. The first one is connection. So the first part is connection. You're connecting with him in some way. So he either reaches out to you, or you reach out back to him, or you're reaching out to him for the first time. It kind of depends on the situation, right? Like, it depends on where you are and how long it's been since you've talked to him, or if you've even talked to him yet or not. And so how do you reach out to him in an attractive way, in a way that almost guarantees that he will respond? There's really 2 different elements that you want to have in a really good text message that you send to a guy, where there's a really high probability chance that he's going to respond. And the first one is that you want there to be some kind of curiosity element. Like, he doesn't know what you're going to say, but he's really interested in it. And the second component is you want it to have something to do with him. So curiosity about what you're going to say, and it has something to do with him. If you have those 2 elements in a text message that you send to a guy, there's a really high probability chance that he's going to respond. And so what's a good text message that you can send to a guy? Here it is. Do you know what I like about you? So that's the text message you send. Do you know what I like about you? And when you send that to a guy, even if he doesn't like you, he probably will still want to know what it is that you like about him, right? And it's got those 2 elements. He's curious, like, what's she going to say? And 2, it's about him, right? And even if, like, let's say that you guys have been fighting and you guys have been fighting a whole lot, and you're like, okay, well, I want to reconnect with him. You could say something like, hey, I know we have kind of been had a lot of arguments and fights recently, but let me ask you something. Do you know what I like about you, right? And if you do that, if you send him that, there's a really good chance that he's going to be like, okay, right? Because you're kind of breaking this pattern that you guys might have of fighting and arguing, and you're creating kind of this new slate, right? It's like this new beginning. You're creating a pattern that maybe he's not used to having you send to him. And so all of a sudden he's like, wait, what's going on here? And so there's kind of this myth out there. I want to bust a myth real quick. And there's this myth out there that you shouldn't let a man know that you like him. That is a myth. You absolutely should let a man know that you like him. However, the truth is that you should make a man think that you're not completely sold on him yet. And this has been proven over and over again through research studies, that the more confusion or uncertainty that a man has around how much you like him, the more he'll feel attracted to you. And so you can tell a man that you like him, but you don't want him to feel like you're completely sold on him yet. You want there to be some doubt in his mind or uncertainty. He's not sure. Well, she likes me, but I'm not really sure how much, right? I'm not sure that she's sold on me. So it's okay to say, do you know what I like about you? It's totally fine. It's actually a really, really great thing. And so what do you say after that, right? So you send him this text message and you're like, do you know what I like about you? And he's like, what, right? Tell me. Or maybe he might even say something funny if he's a really funny guy. And so here's what you want to do. When you send the next text message, you want to frame his behavior. I talk about framing in my Love Frames toolkit. Well, here's what you want to do. You want to say something, you want to frame some kind of behavior of him being a gentleman, or him being kind and considerate, or him being something that you like, right? Like a behavior that you really like in his. So don't talk about his arms or his hair or his back or anything like that. Talk about behaviors of his and frame it as something that is really attractive to you. So, I really think it's attractive how you always open doors for me when we're hanging out with each other. Or I think it's really cool, and I think it's really hot how kind and considerate you are to wait staff whenever we go out. Or, I think it's really sexy whenever you talk about whatever subject he knows about and how smart you are about that, right? So you want to frame some kind of behavior of his that you like as an attractive or sexy or really hot behavior that he has that you like. And if you can't think of anything, that you like about him in terms of behaviors, then you're probably with the wrong man. Just saying, you might be with the wrong guy if you can't think of anything here, right? And then once you say that, the next thing that you do to continue this conversation is to flip it. And so we're going back over this again. Do you know what I like about you? Frame some kind of behavior and then flip it. And flipping it looks like this. You say, your turn. What do you like about me? Smiley face. And so what you're doing here, if he decides that he wants to play into this game, is that you start creating a rationalization in his mind. Because when he starts talking about things that he likes about you, what starts happening is he starts thinking in his mind about things that he associates positively with you, right? And he starts rationalizing that he does like you and that he likes you even more. And so this can work no matter what stage you are with a man. You can say this and you can do this and you can turn it into a game that you guys play, and it can be a lot of fun. And you can take this and do it for a long time. You can do it for weeks. You can do it for months. You can do it for hours. You can do it for however long you want to. And it can become a really fun game that makes him focus on all the things that he likes about you and builds up this image of you in his mind so that he likes you more and more and more and rationalizes it. Okay, so can you see how valuable that text message would be if we didn't talk about anything else on this live stream? Could you see how valuable that text message would be if you used it with a guy? Okay, so number 2, second part of connection cycling is something that I call positive shared experiences. And so you want to stay away from all the negative stuff out there, right? Because I get these women. I had this woman come to me not too long ago where she was talking about how she was constantly in these fights and she was attacking this guy and she was, calling him all these names and doing all this stuff. And she wants to know how to get him to come back to her. And I'm like, if you've been attacking a guy like that and, doing that for a long period of time, it's really, really difficult because you've created these associations around yourself, these negative associations. You're starting to associate anger, rage, negativity. So when he sees her, what ends up happening is he immediately starts getting angry. He immediately gets upset. He immediately gets mad or whatever, right? And instead, you want him to get excited. You want him to feel love. You want him to feel like he can't wait to grab you and hold you in his arms again and just kiss you all over the body, like, right? That's what you want, isn't it? Wouldn't that be great? So that when he just thinks about you, he just can't wait to just see you, and he just feels so great about you. Isn't that something that you'd like? I hope so. So what do you do instead? How do you do less work and create more attraction, more desire, more love for you? How do you do that? Let's talk about that right here. So here's what you want to do. Focus on what it is that he wants and needs, and not what you want to give to him. And so I hear women complaining all the time. They'll come on my page or they'll be in my community and they'll be like, I'm giving everything to a man and he's taking me for granted, right? And it's like this scream, right? Because you can just feel the pain. It's really painful. I haven't been in that situation before, thankfully, but I can just imagine how painful that would be if you thought you were giving everything to somebody and they were taking you for granted. And here's the reason why that happens, because you're giving all the wrong things to him. So if you're giving him the wrong things, it doesn't matter how much you give to him. If you're giving him the wrong thing, he's not going to feel loved. He's not going to feel better about you. He's not going to feel more attracted to you. And so you have to only give him the things that he wants. Because if you give him all these other things and he doesn't want those things, it doesn't matter, right? And it's the same thing with men with women. There's something out there called the love languages, right? And if your love language is really high with like physical touch and words of affirmation, where you like it when guys like give you massages and tell you how pretty you are, but really low, you don't like getting gifts, right? Like it's nice, but it's not like, it doesn't make you feel loved. And a guy comes over and he's constantly buying you gifts. It doesn't matter how many gifts he buys you, because you're not going to feel loved through that. And so what he needs to find out is what it is that you actually want. And you can do the love languages way. There's a quiz out there that you can take. I do recommend the love languages stuff because it's really good stuff, but there's an even better way to do it, in my opinion. There's a much, much better way to do it so that you're not relying on these kind of grand categories. And instead you find out exactly what it is that he wants. And most men don't need much. Most men do not need much. And so instead you want to give him only what he needs and desires. That way you become the primary source of positive emotion in him. And so how do you find out what it is that he wants and needs? Here's how you do it. You ask him, and you ask him this question. You say, what makes you feel loved? What makes you feel loved? This is actually a question that I have in my long distance allure program about how to get into how to make a man crave you in a long distance relationship. And this works really, really well. Just ask him what makes you feel loved. And he'll tell you, most guys will tell you what makes them feel loved. And you just want to make mental notes of that. And you can classify it, right? Categorize it, right? When I feel loved when, this happens or that happens. If he says, when somebody, takes care of me, or somebody does this for me, you can kind of look at it and say, okay, what's happening there? Is it, this, is it that? And then you can give him more of that type of a thing, and you're more likely to make him feel really positive emotions when he's around you. Because what we typically do is we like to give to other people what we like to get. So for instance, my primary love language is physical touch. So I love it when people touch me. Like if I go out and I talk to you, I'm likely to grab your shoulder and give you a hug and, that kind of a thing, and pat you on the back and like all that kind of stuff, right? Because I just love touching people, and I love people touching me. And there's a lot of people that don't like touch, right? There are a bunch of people out there that do not like touch. And so you have to be aware of that, and you have to see what people like and what they don't like, and maybe ask them questions about it. That way you're not giving to them what you want, but they don't want, right? You need to find out what they want and then give that to them. So that's not going to beat a dead horse here anymore than that. So you can do everything for him and hope that it works, or you can do less work and make him feel more attracted to you. So think about it. Doing less work is a better plan. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree that doing less work is a better plan? So here's what I want you to do next. We've got two more, but answer this in the chat. What is the best lesson that you have learned about dating? I want to know, what is the best lesson that you have ever learned about dating? Answer that in the chat. All right, so number 3, Number 3 is give him space. This is step 3 of connection cycling. Number 1 is connection. Number 2 is positive shared experiences. Number 3 is giving him space. So I have a metaphor out there that I talk about sometimes, which is a song. You hear a great song, right? You have like this song that you hear, and the first time you hear it, you're like, oh my God, I love this song. It's the best, right? And you start listening to it. Maybe you put it on your phone or something and start listening to it on repeat, and you're listening to it all the time. You're like, yeah, I love the song, right? But if you listen to it over and over all day long, every day for weeks, eventually it just starts losing its grandioseness, right? It loses how special it is. It's not as interesting to you anymore. But if you stop listening to that song and you have a little bit of time between then and when you hear it again, let's say it comes up on the radio, a week later or something, you're like, yeah, this is my song again, right? And the reason that is because there was some distance between there, right? And so it created more value for that song when you hear it again. And so it's kind of the same thing, right? You want to be his favorite song, but you don't want to play yourself out when you're around him. Instead, you want it to be far more exciting, and the best way to do that is to create some space. He can't miss you if you're in front of him all the time. And so what do you do during that time? You take up some hobbies, and you talk with friends, and you build connection with others so that this guy isn't the only place that you're getting your connection from. You want to get your connection from lots of places, because if something weird happens with him, then it'll completely devastate you if you're not getting connection from other places. So you want to get connection from all around in your life. If you give a man space, you'll become more valuable to him when you're around and even when you're not around. And you'd rather be a lot more valuable to him than less valuable to him. Wouldn't you agree? I hope so. If you're saying yes right now, make sure that you give him space before he needs it. Before he needs it. I call it the scarcity principle. And you will become more valuable if you give him some space and he desires you and he likes you and he thinks you're amazing, right? So you're giving him some space there. Number 4, right? Connection cycling. Number 4 is repeat. And so what you want to do is repeat this whole cycle again, connect with him again, positive shared experiences again, give him space again, repeat. And you just do that over and over and over again, and you build a really powerful connection, an obsessive-like connection with him.